matters financial and geopolitical from a frontier. Thank you for stopping by. We're on holiday tomorrow for the Eid celebrations. My piece over the weekend was called Currency Puzzles and a Weaponized Dollar. The global foreign exchange markets trade approximately $5.1 trillion of volume every day. Foreign exchange markets are the deepest and most liquid of all markets, and because of the leverage, the bang for your buck, participants can access, it remains a place which can serve up the most exponential returns. And of course, because it's symmetrical, exponential losses as well. George Soros and Stanley Druckenmiller remain legends in the FX world for taking more than $1 billion off the Bank of England in 1992. Something I recall as if it were yesterday, because in those days I sat next to the FX desk at Credit Suisse First Boston and watched it unfold in real time. In 1992, the FX markets were voice traded, and most FX traders came from the East End of London, and many of them were plain raucous. Today, algorithmic and computerized trading rules the roost, and markets can move dramatically on semantics and linguistics. Having watched the FX markets more closely than I've watched any woman except my wife, of course, let me deal with one canard, that canard being the imminent demise of the US dollar. Ever since I was a little boy in shorts in Mombasa, reading the back pages of The Economist, folks have been talking about the hegemony of the dollar and how this hegemony was set to be broken into tiny little pieces. Iraq's Saddam Hussein was keen to throw the dollar over and ended up dead. Libya's Muammar Gaddafi spoke of a dinar and ended up dead as well. The crypto evangelists have been knocking with an evangelical fervour that reminds me of folks who'd been out all night, somewhere like the Ministry of Sound, tired and strung out a little, like Elon is behaving of late. If you're betting on the collapse of the dollar, please note it might take an eternity to pan out, and this year it will have proven extremely expensive. A trade-weighted index of the US dollar has climbed more than 5% this year and is nearing its all-time high. President Trump has apparently embraced a strong dollar and, of course, coercive financial warfare, and tweeted this on the 16th of August. Our economy is doing better than ever. Money is pouring into our cherished dollar, in caps lock, like really before. Companies' earnings are higher than ever, inflation is low, and business optimism is higher than it has ever been. For the first time in many decades, we are protecting our workers. Year to date, the dollar has rallied about 37% against the Argentine peso and the Turkish lira. It's plus 16.21% versus the rand, plus 14.55% against the Russian ruble. I can find only 3 currencies that have appreciated against the dollar in 2018. The Mexican peso is plus 3.2%, Kenya shilling is plus 2.5%, Japanese yen is plus 2%. The Kenya shilling is the second best performing currency in the world in 2018, and that's why I headlined the article, Currency Puzzles. Essentially, the US has been raising rates, making holding the dollar more attractive and reducing the supply of dollars. Previously, EM and frontier markets had been showering in a golden flood of cheap dollar liquidity. Had been borrowing dollars like there was no tomorrow, but are now scrambling to find those dollars because the golden shower has been switched off. EM asset prices have been particularly badly hit. FX and fixed income, Citi, MSCI, EM now down 20% from their January 25th peak. The EM currency index is down 16% from its peak in mid-February, and the MB spread has increased by 101 basis points since February. The India rupee is at a record low, the rand at levels which are worse than when President Jacob Zuma was terminating his finance ministers, and even fell 10% intraday. President Erdogan, instead of seeking to bend the arc of history towards justice, has been seeking to bend the arc of monetary policy to his will. It won't happen, therefore stay limit short Recep Tayyip. According to calculations by Standard & Poor's, Turkey's GDP could shrink to $594 billion next year, the lowest level since 2006, and an unprecedented drop in wealth. As recently as 2013, Turkey was on the verge of a $1 trillion economy. Turkey's total stock market value is now $115 billion, less than the stock market cap of McDonald's. I believe we've embarked on a very big rally in the dollar and that there is a lot further to go. Now, if you want to chance your arm in this market, you can. Take a look at EGM Securities and watch our daily update on YouTube. This is a photograph from George Soros and Stanley Druckenmiller around the period when they took the Bank of England. It was actually £1 billion, I think. Turkish Lira is back in the lead in the neck-to-neck race for the world's worst currency in 2018. It's around the 6th level. And according to Holger, its plunge is on par with Mexico and the Asian crises of the 1990s. Let's now go to some home thoughts. I attended a funeral on Sunday of an aunt of mine, Sultana. She has three sons with whom we've been very close, and when I was calculating it as I was at the service 40 to 45 years ago, and as I sat, I could not help but think that time flies so fast. Seeing faces that I'd known so well all those years ago. And as I scanned the room, I found another cousin staring at me a little like the way Herbert Lom stared at Inspector Clouseau, which was disconcerting, but that story is for another day. Our cemetery is in a place called Kariokor, which is now a very curious drive. Kariokor is an area of Nairobi where artisans do metal beating and that kind of physical, energetic, typically raucous thing. It can feel like driving through an underworld, and then you arrive at the cemetery and you hear prayers that have been prayed for hundreds of years. It was a little surreal. Kariokor, during the First World War, a contingent of Africans were in the British Army as carrying luggage. The Carrier Corps, as they were known, carried everything the soldiers needed to survive during the East African campaign of the First World War. Their base in Nairobi was around the present-day Kariokor area. The locals simply called the place Kariokor, which had a local dialect influence, sounded like Kariokor, and it's today still called like that name. I like this, a triple platinum tweet. Indeed it is. Breaking news, a member of the Ascend just became the first Afghan woman to summit Mount Noshak, Afghanistan's highest peak, 24,580 feet. Well done to her. And another shot of this evening's moon using a Sony A9 camera, rather beautiful indeed it is. And then I came across this, Aretha Franklin, Smokey Robinson, singing Ooh Baby Baby. Do have a listen, it's really worth it, it's amazing. Today's real borders are not between nations, but between powerful and the powerless, free and fettered, privileged and humiliated. Today, no walls can separate humanitarian or human rights crises in one part of the world from national security crises in another. Kofi Annan. In his first speech in the Assembly as the Prime Minister, an emotional Imran Khan said it took him 22 years of struggle to reach a place where he could build a new Pakistan. 22 years later, after humiliations, hurdles and sacrifices, my son's father is Pakistan's next Prime Minister. It's an incredible lesson in tenacity, belief and refusal to accept defeat. Congratulations, Imran Khan. That's from his wife, previous wife, Jemima Khan. Narendra Modi risks paying a political price after the rupee hits an all-time low. Narendra Modi used to see the value of the rupee, India's national currency, as a mirror reflecting the strength of the nation's leaders and their economic stewardship. During the 2013 taper tantrum, when emerging market currencies were battered by US interest rate rises, Mr. Modi, then Gujarat's chief minister, blamed the incumbent Congress-led government for the rupee's sharp fall. Rupee is crumbling against the dollar. Rupee is in the ICU due to Congress, he declared at the time. It's now hitting an all-time low, and according to Peter Brent, who I follow, the charts could go a lot lower. Saudi prosecution calls for the beheading of a female human rights defender, Isra al-Gomgan. The Washington Post is calling for the end to the US's support for this misbegotten and unwinnable war in the Yemen. To what I said in November when I was writing about the Crown Prince, I said he arrived on the scene and immediately launched an unwinnable war in Yemen. Omarosa really was walking around like Inspector Gadget in the West Wing, video camera on her belt nut buckle, recording device in her pen, camera in her engagement ring. She was a mobile production company. She's turned out to be quite smart. The Turkish Lira starts the week almost unchanged. I haven't checked it since then. We were around 6 in the morning. My piece on the 13th of August was called Cold Turkey. And then I did an interview with Al Jazeera, Why is Turkey's currency crisis shaking global markets? And a subsequent one with TRT World about the $15 billion investment that was announced by the emir of Qatari. A double downgrade for Turkey. S&P cuts Turkey's credit rating to B+ from BB- and Moody's downgrades it to Ba3 from Ba2 and lowers the outlook to negative. President Trump, as I said on the 13th of August, seems to be relishing his financial warfare strategies. He has Khamenei on the run. Maduro in Venezuela has been attacked by remote-controlled drones. Z suddenly looks ever so fragile. Sun Charters to put up a few interesting charts. This is Facebook via SK Macro. What that chart is telling us is that we're in a very dangerous moment. We could fall quite sharply in this, and this is being sort of confirmed by some other charts that I came across, some long-term mega cap tech charts. There are 4 of them here. The evolution of the channel breakout blow off top. Netflix breakout topped and likely returning to trend. Amazon, Microsoft close to top. Apple breaking out of channel. They don't look constructive. Elon Musk confronts a fateful Tesla tweet in an excruciating quite an excruciating interview. Talking about the $420, it seemed like better karma at $420 than at $419. But I was not on weed, to be clear. Weed is not helpful for productivity. There's a reason for the word stoned. You just sit there like a stone on weed, he said. And clearly, no one believes him, in a word. O'Day Crispy notices Tesla feels like it's entering its final stage of life. Shorts like Tesla have been difficult to hold on to, he said in a letter to investors. However, Tesla feels like it is entering the final stage of its life, he wrote, comparing Chairman Elon Musk's behavior to that of Donald Crowhurst, the amateur sailor who set off in the 1960s on a solo voyage around the world and never came back. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar 114.22, dollar index 96.24, dollar yen 110.63, Swiss franc 0.9951, the pound is at 127.43, the Australian dollar 0.7302, India rupee just a whisker below 70 at 69.825, South Korean won 11.2276, the Rial 3.91, Egyptian pound 17.9130, and the rand still soft 14.687. Dollar index, take a look at this chart. My target is 100, but near term I think we could see a bigger pullback. Euro dollar lost at 114.21. A few folks are looking for a meaningful rebound, it seems, on this. Gold 1187.25, trying to find a footing here. Crude is ending a 7th straight week of losses, the longest losing streak in 3 years. Raw sugar prices dropped to a 10-year low of $10.11 per pound. Don't tell Kenyan consumers who pay twice the world market price. Dollar versus emerging markets in one chart, that's from JS Blockland. Another EM crisis in the making, driven by a dollar shortage, ? Holga. Let's move on to Sub-Saharan Africa. Kampala, according to Maggie Fig, 1 person died and 5 others were wounded in Uganda on Sunday, police said. Security forces used tear gas and live bullets to disperse a demonstration against the beating of arrested lawmakers in response to the stoning of a presidential convoy. For us to defeat President Museveni, it will take more than one political party, more than one tribe, more than one religion, and yes, more than one generation. That is what Bobby Wine tweeted around the August the 10th. At a rally in Arua, he said, "We find ourselves in a situation where we've been postponing a problem, hoping it will solve itself, until a time has come for us to do what we must do. It is not a secret anymore that we're trying to unite and remove Museveni from power. This is a unification of the oppressed against the oppressors," he said. This is by Lauren P. in DC. And she said, "The state has responded. Now how will the people of Uganda respond? For now it appears with outrage. It's all about holding control of the street like Kabila managed to do. And this is what Museveni is trying to hold on to. But if you look at the numbers of some of these crowds that this gentleman is able to rally, it's phenomenal. And I think this is another tsunami situation, possibly." Then I found Rashid Abdi referred me to an article, Uganda's Slow Slide into Crisis, November 2017. An international crisis group report, "Growing discontent threatens the dysfunctional and corrupt political system built by Museveni, who's now maneuvering to extend his 3 decades in power by raising a 75-year limit on presidential candidates. As security, governance and economic performance deteriorates, Uganda needs urgent reforms to avoid greater instability." And look at this. This is from Kizito Serumaga. "Last night's banner over Sankara intersection downtown." Zoom in on the banner. This is in Ghana. So he's resonating across the continent. Kenyan pundit making the point, Twitter as a space for new youth-led Pan-Africanism. South African oil shares down 4.8% this year. Dollar rand 14.6872. I think we're going over 15. Egyptian pound 17.913. Nigerian oil shares down 7.78% year to date and in a bear market already. And the Ghana Stock Exchange is up 11.14% year to date. Nation Media reported first half profit after tax slumped 35.5%. Revenue was down 6.7% to 4.923 billion. Profit before tax was down 7.4%. They increased provisioning for overdue debts from $17.5 million, which is $175,000, to $291.6 million, which is $2.916 million. It's a big increase. Profit after tax therefore declined 35.5%. Cash and cash equivalents 2.445 billion. An interim dividend of 1 shilling 50 cents, which is down 40% from the previous interim. Revenues in print, Nation down 9%, East African flat, Business Daily flat, Daily Monitor +3 and Wananchi down 12%. Direct costs at the Nation down 8%, East African up 42%, Business Daily up 7%, Daily Monitor up 7%, Wananchi down 24%. Daily Nation, which is the flagship newspaper, operating results were down 13%. East African was up more than 100%, but if I recall correctly, there were many challenges the previous year. Business Daily down 10%, Monitor up 27%, Mwananchi up 48%. NTV Kenya revenues down 10%, digital revenues up 6%. Stephen Gitagama, the CEO, says our digital footprint stands at 33.6 million. Social media reach is very significant. Outstanding government debt of 856 million shillings, 85% overdue. So the discussions are ongoing with the government that they've suspended credit. A top line affected by the NTV closure at the beginning of the year following the second elections, bottom line affected by the provision for bad debt. I think it's still a slog, like for like, it's down 7.4% before provisioning. Print revenues down 9% of the nation, digital doing well as you'd expect. Its other listed competitor, Standard Group, reported first half profit after tax surged 267.57%. Revenue was down 1.66%, but they managed to crush total operating costs by 8.08%. That bumped up profit before tax 382.77%, and profit after tax 267.57%. Key drivers of the above performance were efficiency and costs optimization for the group. Trade debtors grew by 10% for the period under review. Headline revenue down 1.66%, total operating costs down 8.08%. That's quite different. Arm Cement rallied 8.82% on Friday, but has now been suspended by the NSE as it's put into administration. Saiton put out a weekly report. It said about the IMF, and I agree with them, we're of the view that the availability of the program as a precautionary facility is important in cushioning the country from unforeseen exogenous shocks. Yields on both the 10 and 30-year Eurobonds increased by 0.2 and 0.1 to 7.8% for the 10-year and 8.7% for the 30-year. Anything with a 9 handle on the 30-year looks very attractive. Yields on 91-day, 182-day and 364-day T-bills remained unchanged at 7.79 and 10%. According to Saiton, Equity Bank's balance sheet increased by 7.3% to 542 billion shillings. Growth was driven by a 37.5% increase in government securities to 158.9 billion. Gross non-performing loans increased by 20.1%. Consequently, the NPL ratio deteriorated to 8.5% from 7.4%. General loan loss provisions increased by 23.2%. This is counter trend. Everybody else was reducing their loan loss provisions, interestingly enough. If you're interested in the share price data and half-year results, that link is on Rich wrap-ups as well. Equity Bank has now overtaken East African Breweries as the second largest company by market cap. EABL's share price data is also there on Rich wrap-ups if you wanted to compare it. KCB increased EPS by 18%. Performance was driven by a 2.9% increase in total operating income, coupled with the 6.8% decline in total operating expenses. KCB's results are there as well. Co-op Bank grew EPS 7.6%. The results and earnings are there as well. And finally, Barclays grew EPS by 6.2%. And those results are also analysed on Rich wrap-ups if you want to have a look. Kenya shilling is appreciated by 2.3% year to date, making it, as I said, the second best performing currency in the world. And this has largely been off the back of improved diaspora remittances, which increased by 71.9% year on year to 266.2 million. Kenya shilling 100.86, Nairobi all share up 1.98% year to date, Nairobi NSE 20 down 10.13% year to date. Two counties, two clowns, the farce of Waititu and Sonko, well worth a read.